Hello everybody, my name is Gustavo Reyes Ramirez and we are here today with a really special part of Community Bridges, which is focusing on the civil rights movement, and the part of the movement that we're going to study today and create from is the Chicano movement of the 1960s. And specifically, we're going to look at Rudolfo Corky Gonzales' excerpts from his poem, his epic poem, which is called I Am Joaquín. The reason I said Chicano versus Chicana or Chicanx is because I'm talking about the Chicano movement in the 1960s, which was primarily male-dominated, and we will look at the intersectionality of today's movements, the commonality that it has with you, with each individual person in today's diverse society. So let's start with the civil rights movement. The civil rights movement was led and created by and had the face of African Americans, but it was supported by a coalition of many different types of peoples, where they were Asian American, Jewish, other white Americans, Latinos, women, feminists, LGBT were all an integral part of the success of the civil rights movement, and concentrated and had achievements in voting rights, in workers' rights, equal opportunity for education, and in housing as well. The civil rights movement inspired Chicanos to rally and advocate for their own and our own self-determination and cultural empowerment. What some people don't realize is that in the same time frame, in the 40s and in the 50s and in the 60s, Latino Americans were subjected to the same types of discrimination as African Americans were subjected to. There were Mexican schools where it was against all the rules to speak Spanish, and youth were forced with corporal punishment to speak English and to deny their Mexican heritage. I'm from Pomona. Pomona was a segregated city where the south side is where the Mexicans lived and the north side is where white people lived, and you couldn't live in North Pomona unless you were white. So Mexicans and other Latino Americans were discriminated because of the way that we looked, because of the way that we spoke, and because of the way that we practiced religion, which was mostly Catholicism, especially 50 years ago. So this is the environment in which I Am Joaquín by Rudolfo Corky Gonzales came to be. I'm going to let you know just a little bit about Rudolfo Gonzales, better known as Corky Gonzales, who is one of the four horsemen of the Chicano movement. So he was born in 1928 in Denver, Colorado, and passed away in 2005 in Denver, Colorado. And he was one of the leaders in the Crusade for Justice, which started in Colorado, and that was a cultural urban movement of the 1960s, which focused on social, political, and economic justice for Chicanos. And in 1969, Corky Gonzales founded the Chicano Youth Liberation Conference, and out of that was birthed the Plan Espiritual de Aztlán, which is a pro-indigenous manifesto of Chicano self-determination. And also in 1969, Corky Gonzales created I Am Joaquín. And as it was used for Chicanos in the 60s, we can take so much of it and empower each and every one of you. Without further ado, I am Joaquín. I am Joaquín. Lost in a world of confusion, confused by the rules, scorned by the attitudes. My fathers have lost the economic battle and won the struggle of cultural survival. And now I must choose between the paradox of victory of the spirit despite physical hunger, or to exist in the group of American social neurosis, sterilization of the soul, and a full stomach. Yes, I've come a long way to nowhere, unwillingly dragged by the monstrous technical industrial giant we call progress and Anglo success. I look at myself. I watch my brothers. I shed tears of sorrow. I sow seeds of hate. I withdraw to safety within the circle of life, my own people. I am Cuauhtémoc, proud and noble, leader of men, king of an empire civilized beyond the dreams of the Gachupin Cortés, who is also the blood, the image of myself. I am Mayan prince. I am Nezahualcóyotl. I am the eagle and the serpent of Aztec civilization. I worked, I sweated, I bled, I prayed, and waited silently for life to begin again. I am Joaquín. I rode with Pancho Villa. I am Emiliano Zapata. I am the mountain Indian. The thundering hoof beats are my horses. I have been the bloody revolution, the victor and the vanquished. I am the black-shawled faithful women who die with me or live. I am the faithful, humble Juan Diego, the Virgen of Guadalupe, Tonantzin, Aztec goddess too. I rode the mountains of San Joaquin. I rode east and north as far as the Rocky Mountains. Siqueiros, Orozco is but another act of revolution for the salvation of mankind. Mariachi music, the heart and soul of the people of the earth. I'm the child and the happiness of love. I am in the eyes of woman, deep and sorrowful eyes that bear the pain of sons long buried or dying, dead on the battlefield or on the barbed wire of social strife. Her rosary she prays and fingers endlessly, like the family working down a row of beats, to turn around and work and work. There is no end. Her eyes a mirror of all the warmth and all the love for me, and I am her, and she is me. I am Joaquín. I must fight and win the struggle for my sons, and they must know who I am. I have existed in the barrios of the city, in the suburbs of bigotry, and in the mines of social snobbery, in the muck of exploitation, and in the fierce heat of racial hatred. And now, the trumpet sounds. The music of the people stirs revolution. Like the sleeping giant, it slowly rears its head to the sound, honoring voices, mariachi strains, and fiery tequila explosions, the smell of chile verde, and soft brown eyes of expectation for a better life. We start to move. La raza, Mexicano, Español, Latino, Chicano, or whatever I call myself. I cry and I sing the same. I refuse to be absorbed. The odds are great, but my spirit is strong, my faith unbreakable, my blood is pure. I am Aztec Prince and Christian Christ. I shall endure. I will endure. And that is an excerpt from I Am Joaquín from Rudolfo, Corky, Gonzales. A special part of the poem that really speaks to me is when Gonzales states that he's the victor and the vanquished. So Corky Gonzales does not deny the Spanish part of his heritage, the white part of his heritage, the European part of his heritage. He embraces the totality of his identity, which includes Aztec, which includes Maya, which includes other indigenous. He also says he is the dreams of Cortés, the Spanish conqueror, and he said Cortés is also the blood and the image of myself. In this way, Corky Gonzales does not deny any aspect of his identity. He uses that to say that he will not assimilate to the mainstream American white culture. And he says, he ends the poem with I refuse to be absorbed. I shall endure. I will endure. And this is really inspirational to me because my heritage is also Chicano, and my tribe, family's tribe, is Odam. And Odam is from the state of Durango, the mountains of Durango, and originally we're from what is now the borderland area of the Sonora Desert, the northern part and middle part of Sonora, Mexico, and as well as the southern and middle part of Arizona. So just as Corky Gonzales appreciates and celebrates all aspects of his identity, so I take that inspiration and that model to say, you know, I cherish all identities. So that is actually LGBTQ. I'm one of the letters. And also my tribe, what people like Corky Gonzales have done is he's inspired us now in 2022 to embrace our identities and take it a step further and 2 steps further. What was a male-dominated Chicano movement, which came out of and was inspired by the Black Civil Rights Movement, it represented, first of all, Chicano, not Latino. So in other words, they were talking about culturally aware and socially aware Mexican American. So it was smaller than the movements that grew out of that. Now we have more pan-Latino American and pan-indigenous movements. Now we see that the movements are more open to LGBTQA+, to women, to the feminist movement. Things are more embracing today. But back then in 1969, Corky Gonzales wrote, "I sow seeds of hate and I shed tears of sorrow." Today, in today's modern world, we can take from what is a Chicano poetry and the Chicano movement to flourish and embrace other identities. Today, I teach that it's so appropriate to talk about what's known as intersectionality. So what I'm saying, it's really important to now embrace each other. Where Corky says, "I sow seeds of hate," what I want to sow and teach are seeds of love. Am Joaquín is a quintessential I am poem, and what an I am poem is a poem that brings about the best in ourselves. So it's a poem in which you will have a chance to write and honor yourself and the different identities and the different wonders of the universe that you cherish. So we've saved the best for last, and now I'm going to lead you through an exercise in which you'll come up with your own I am poem that'll honor and celebrate who you are and what you are inspired by in the universe. What we're going to do first is kind of brainstorm and think of different words or phrases that inspire us. First one I'll think of is Aztec dancer. So I'm going to write this down, and you're welcome to write down along with me, and then you can pause and write your own and play with this and go with this and create your own masterpiece. Bear in mind, your I am poem does not have to rhyme. It can have the rhythm that you like. There's no actual real rules except for it's about empowering you all and us all. So I'm going to put Aztec dancer. Somehow what comes to mind actually is different gods of different cultures. So whether it's Quetzalcoatl, that's the feathered serpent. And then there's Quetzalpapalot, which is the Quetzal butterfly in Nahuatl, which is the language of the Mexica. And Mexica, again, is the correct term or original term for the Aztec. We can play around and use and honor, cherish, and celebrate all aspects of all of our cultures. So I'll put a Mayan prince. It can be African goddess. It can be Thor. Whatever we choose to describe ourselves as. Now it can also be what we cherish most out there in the world and in the universe. So it could be I am the aurora borealis, the wonder of the universe. It can be I am all the art of Africa. It can be I am the music of the Congo. It can be from the Congo to the Caribbean. It can be the rhythm. It can be the cumbia sounds. It can be the norteño sounds. It can be the mariachi sounds, to use one actually that Corky Gonzales used. Now I'll give us some moments to play around with this, and I'll write a little of my own. So what I did was I decided to create an I am Chicano poem to further inspire you. Take all you want from this poem, if anything inspires you from my I am Chicano sonnet, to be exact. Chicano sonnet, I am, by Gustavo Reyes Ramirez. I am Mexica Quetzalpapalot. You say be careful, do not rock the boat. I am the lightning and the sound of thunder, yet do not want to end up 6 feet under. I know we're all destined to turn to dust. With you, I'll change the world. Do this? I must. I must take risks ever so calculated. I'm loved by so many, but also I'm hated. I show you many ways that I transform, just like an ocean dances in the storm. I am the phoenix dancing in the fire. I am the song of angels singing in the choir. I am the real one, I do not mean to boast. Pueblo Tiahui, onward from coast to coast. The way we're going to conclude this lesson is by thanking you for all of your participation and by sharing with you what has really personally touched me. I grew up hating myself when I was 9 years old, 10, 12, 14 years old. I hated myself because I am gay. And at the time, we were knee deep in homophobia culturally, from the television to teachers at school to my parents who are now lovingly accept me, and I honor and thank my parents and my family. But when I was raised in the 70s and in the 80s, we oftentimes couldn't even mention the word being gay. Like, my family wouldn't even mention it. So it's in that context and environment that I grew up in, and I was fortunate enough to be raised in Pomona, California, with wonderful African-American teachers and teachers of different backgrounds that were culturally sensitive and empowering. And I was taught about the Civil Rights Movement, and I was taught about Malcolm X and Martin Luther King, and I was taught about Rosa Parks and so many other people in the African-American aspect of the Civil Rights Movement. And I began to feel, look, if people like Martin Luther King could say, I am a man, and if African-Americans say, I am human, then I began to believe, like, when I was 16 and 17 and 18 years old, like, you know what? I am a man, and I am human, and I deserve to share my voice with people. So it's in this spirit that I would love for you and hope that you are embracing all the different aspects of yourself, and maybe even aspects that before you might not have really highlighted and embraced. But I ask you to, with this celebration of yourself, is to pay it forward and be the light for other people that might be struggling silently, and you can empower others. And in this way, we can really, without exaggeration, make our communities much more loving places to be in, and we can make our difference in the world. So that is my goal, to make our world a better place, starting with you, one individual, one heart at a time. Thank you so much for your time, and I look forward to you submitting your poems, and I look forward to reading all of your artwork. Thank you.